Alright guys, Anthony Vapes, and I am back again with my next review. This is going to be on the Cerabis 44 and Cerabis 45 tanks from Ceravape. These were actually sent to me for the purpose of a review. So I did not actually buy these. Here's what the little boxes look like. They're actually identical in every way, except for on the back you'll see the checkbox of which tank is which. So let's get into my intro first before I show off the tanks. I want to say first off, I am listening to suggestions. One thing is the lighting. If you see, I look pretty damn lit up. Everyone was saying they were a little too dark, so I went ahead and made them made it a lot brighter. I got a nice little spotlight going in the background, which I might have to adjust if it's too much, but like I said, it's a work in progress. Also, the camera, I got the camera a lot closer to me. People were saying that you want to take up most of the screen, not some of it, like I was doing before, so the option was either move the camera closer or get fatter, and I wasn't really into the getting fatter part, so I went ahead and got the camera kind of right up in my face. I've also put on the framing lines on it so I can see that I'm pretty much dead center right now. So hopefully that helps, and same with the focus. I made some adjustments on the focus settings, so we'll see how that looks. Hopefully a little bit better. And instead of using cliff notes or just going off my head, I actually took pretty detailed notes this time to try to make things go a little bit smoother. Also, I will try to talk a little slower. Naturally I don't, so I'll try, but no promises. So let's go ahead and get into the tanks. I was sent to them for a review. Here are the tanks. I will be using my trusty home slice mods like I do in most of my reviews. So this is the Cerabis 44 tank. And let's go take a quick look at some of the specs on it. This is a 22 millimeter tank. It holds 2 milliliters of e-juice. One thing to note, which I'll show in the close-up, is it doesn't actually have a 510 pin on the bottom. To connect, the coil itself just goes through a hollow hole and touches your 510 pin on your mod, which is kind of interesting, which I'll show that in the close-up. It is a top-fill tank, which I'll also show in the close-up, and it telescopes. So you can close this. By closing this, you shut off the airflow and the juice flow, and you pop it open, and it opens them both up. When you adjust it, you want to turn clockwise only. And I say this because if you turn counterclockwise, it actually spins the coil out of the base. And then when you take off the top and the bottom part, your coil is stuck in the base, and you have to kind of pull it out because it's held in there by some O-rings, and then screwed into the bottom of the base. So you want to always turn it clockwise, like you're still tightening, to make your adjustments on air and juice flow. And the juice flow holes are right in here. You can see those juice flow holes, and the air holes that's completely wide open. Those are the coil leads actually going through the bottom. And that's about it on this tank, and I'll give more of a close-up on it. This one right now, this has the 1 ohm coil in it, which I found works best at 40 watts. And it's rated for 25 to 50, but 40 is what I found was a sweet spot. And the thing about the coils on these is there's literally no cotton, which I'll try to see if I can pull apart and show that also in the close-up, but there is no cotton in them. It's just ceramic and wire, which is interesting because other ceramic coils actually still have content in them. They just kind of surround it all with ceramic. The Cerabis 45 is this one, which I actually prefer this one a little bit better, which I'll explain more why in the close-up. This is the 45. It is also a 22 millimeter tank. It's 2.5 milliliters of juice, so you get a little bit more juice capacity. Same thing with the no 510 pin. This is actually a side fill, and I really like the side fill on it, so I will go ahead and get more into that as well in the close-up. For my process of how I did this was these tanks have interchangeable coils. So the coils work for all their tanks from Ceravape, for these three at least, the 44, the 45, and the 44 mini. So you can interchange them. So what I did was I had the 0.5 ohm in this tank and the 1 ohm in this tank. I used them until they burned out. I went through their cleaning process, and then I swapped the coils into the other tanks so I can get both coils in both tanks. So that was my testing process for it. The coil breakdown. So the coils lasted me 9 tanks each. So on the 9th tank of each of them is when I started to get the little funny burnt flavor. So that's about a week. I did vape pretty heavy. Someone might be able to get 2 weeks out of it. You know, it's a very juice-friendly tank. It doesn't eat up all your juice like a lot of tanks do. So 9 tanks is actually quite a bit. You're not going to blow through 3 tanks in a day, most likely. My my cleaning process was I tried both of the processes, which was boiling and dry burning are the two things they said. So what I did was I brought up water to a boil, dropped both coils in. You actually see bubbles start coming out of the coils when you do it. I left them in there for 5 minutes, and I took them out and let them dry overnight, and then I went ahead and put them in. So I did that. I tried the 0.5 ohm. It kind of worked. It did clean it off. It definitely tasted better, but it didn't taste like a new coil. It tasted better. You can get a couple more days out of it by doing that, but I don't think you get the full life as if it was a new coil out of it. And I did the same with the other one, but I also did the dry burn, like they said, and again, the same result. It cleaned it, but it didn't make it like new. So you can clean them and get a couple extra days out of them. Probably do it a few times, but you're not going to have a new coil every time you clean it. It's still going to taste kind of like a used coil, but it's not going to taste burnt. So the coils kind of do what they're supposed to say, but not necessarily do exactly like you would expect if you wanted it to be brand new. So other than that, not really much more to talk about on the up close. I do want to do my pros and cons here. So number one, we have no leaks. There is no leaks out of this tank, even with the telescope open. So open, closed, doesn't matter, they just don't leak. So that's good. Good coil life. It's not as good as you would think, the way it's marketed, where you can just keep using the same coils for months on end. No, not really, but you could definitely get 2 or 3 weeks out of a coil if you keep cleaning it every couple days. So it's pretty good. You get decent vapor out of them, but definitely not the best. It's above a beginner tank or like a vape pen, I guess. It's above a vape pen, but it's definitely a step below the step-up tanks like a Cleto, which is kind of in the same wattage range with a little bit higher wattage. But it's actually close enough, but it's still not as good as what the Cleto is. It's kind of in between that area. It is technically a sub-ohm tank since it is 0.5 ohm coils. It doesn't quite match even the Freemax Star Pure, so it's a smaller tank. It's a step up from the vape pen for a beginner that's looking to get a little bit more, but it's not really a tank for an advanced vapor. Fill. So yeah, the 45, the filling on this, and this doesn't apply to this one because this is your standard screw off the top fill, but the filling on this is a huge pro for me. I really loved the way you fill this. I'll show it more in the close-up, but you basically pull this part down while it's tilted sideways, you pull your juice in, and then pop it back up. You can actually do it with 2 hands. A lot of the fills you can't because you have to unscrew, put that down, and then you have to fill it up, and then you have to pick that back up and screw it on. This, there's nothing to unscrew. It pops down, fill it up, pop back up. Nice and simple. And I'll also go over that in the close-up. So that's also a good pro. And what's this other good pro? Oh, good manual. It actually has a good manual with it. Explained it very well. I know a lot of products have really poor manuals. I was able to look at the manual real quick, take it apart, and figure out how it works relatively easily. But it is a little more complicated tank than a lot of them. Cons: it's not the best flavor or vapor. It's a little bit better than a vape pen, but again, worse than a Cleto and other sub-ohm tanks that might be a step up from the vape pen. But if you're looking for something just to start out on, it's a little bit better than a vape pen. It kind of fits that role. The spinning, the way it spins, you have to spin it that way. If you spin it counterclockwise, your coil gets stuck in there because it unscrews from the base, and it gets stuck in there. You have to kind of pull it out with a screwdriver, is what I did. And you got to be careful when doing that. And it's a little complicated for a beginner device. With the telescoping and the way it fills a little differently, it's a little complicated. So those are my cons on it. And my pros, let's take a quick vape on them. So here is the 0.5 ohm coil at 50 watts. Actually looks pretty good on the camera, but it's really not that much. It's a decent amount, and the flavor's pretty good. And here's the 1 ohm coil at 40 watts. Not too shabby. So I'm going to go ahead now and cut into the close-up, give my close-up review of it, and I'll be back in the outro, and I'll say whether I recommend a tank or not, and have my little outro. So let's go up to the up-close. Alright, Anthony Vapes here with the up-close of the Ceravape Cerabis 44 and 45 tanks. Also, in my listening to opinions, I've done something different with the camera for the close-up view, and I think it's going to work out pretty well, so we're going to find out. I got my nice white background. I got the camera actually in front of me, so I'm standing up doing this over the camera instead of with the camera like on top of me. So here is your box, and I'm only going to show one because again these are completely identical. So this one's for the Cerabis 44, but as you see the only difference is what they check off. Here you have your authenticity card, ceramic coil, here, ceramic coil series tank, ceravape logo. When you open it up, you actually have a pretty good manual in here, as you can see. It's kind of a weird thing the way it works, but we've got O-rings, spare glass, spare coil. And that's basically the packaging. And this whole part actually kind of pops out. And this part kind of pops out. So it's not bad packaging, it gets the job done. Nothing special, but you do have, comes with one of each coil. This is actually the 0.5, I believe, but I'm not sure. We'll get close up with those. And your spare glass and stuff. So here's the 44 and 45. I'm going to go ahead and start with the 44. It's a little simpler. Your 510 pin here just pops right off. You can use any 510 pin you want on it. It says right there, Cerabis 44 on the top. Top part unscrews. Tank pops off. Now this tank is really hard to get off, but I've loosened it before, but it's really hard to get off. I actually probably won't pull the tank off. It's one of those friction fit grommets like on the Cleto, and it's kind of oily from my juice. So I'll probably just leave it on for now. And then what this part you want to do is actually close it in order to unscrew it. It doesn't unscrew when it's open. So you close it down, you can unscrew it out. And there's your coil. This is why I said it's important to do it clockwise the whole time, because if you do it counterclockwise, this will actually unscrew out of the base and it gets stuck in there. Because you see the O-rings actually go pretty tight in there, so it gets stuck. So here's your coil that just pops out. This one is, let's see, right there we go. So there's your 1 ohm coil. And this is just your little telescoping base part. Made by Ceravape. So we'll go ahead and take apart the 45 now. And then I'll go ahead and I will pause it after that. I'm going to wash them off. I'll come back again to the close-up and unpause it. And then I will go ahead and show you how to put it back together and show you up close some of the cool features. So this one's kind of the same here, 510 pins, same exact, drip tip, 510 drip tip, same exact one as the other one. Same thing, base unscrews. Make sure you have it closed or else it won't unscrew. And that pops out. There's your coil. Coil just unscrews. Now the cool thing about this is, I'll show you this real quick, is the fill. So for the fill, you'll see here, see that little white logo of a drop? There's a little hook in there. And what you do is you have to twist this a little bit this way. It might be hard because it's oily. Nope, and then you slide it down, and there you go. There's your fill hole. So you leave it tilted like this on the side, you fill it till it's all the way full, then you just push it back up. And mind you, I'm doing this from looking through the camera, not actually looking at the device itself, so it's a little harder for me than what it actually is. Let's see if I can kind of get a look at it while keeping it on camera here. Yep, there we go. So we just push it in there, and you just spin it, and it locks it into place. So that's actually a really cool feature. I love the way that fills up. And that's pretty much the whole thing about taking this apart. There's really not much more to it. The top does unscrew here. But again, this is super hard to do right now because it's so oily. So I'm going to go ahead and pause it and get this all washed and cleaned up, and then I'll come back and show you how to put them together. Alright, now that I got everything cleaned up, I'm going to go ahead and reassemble it, and I'm going to go ahead and dissect these coils. So one thing I did want to show real quick is on the bottom base here. As I said, there is no 510 pin. See that? It is just a hollow hole, and this, on the coil, is actually your 510 pin. So, when this goes into the base, that's where you get your pin that touches the 510 of the mod. So, definitely wanted to point that out. So let's go ahead and assemble this. This is your bottom part here, which you see has a little telescoping thing that pops in and out. Here's your top section, your little chimney section. So we're going to go ahead and take this, and we're going to screw it into the chimney section. And this is the Cerabis 45. This is my more favorite of the two. So it's kind of without the coil in there, like this, but with it doesn't do that if you actually have the coil in it. And then this part screws on. Still a little water in it. And then your 510 pin goes on. So it's not a super complicated tank, but it's not the least complicated out there. Now the one thing again I wanted to show, cool filling. All they do is take this, and there's a little hook right here. Let's see if we can see it. There we go. And all you gotta do is separate that hook by moving a little bit, and then it pops right out. There's your fill hole, nice large fill hole. Everything fits in there. And you pop it back up and turn it, and there you go. So that's definitely one of my favorite features of this tank, and this is why I very much prefer this one, is I love the way you fill it, and I would like to see more tanks that you fill up that way. That is a great idea. Let's go ahead and put the 44 back together. Again, same thing, hollow, and you're just going to go ahead and screw your chimney part onto it. There's still a little bit of water in there, but no big deal. And again, the glass does come off, but I'm not going to pull it off because it's a pain in the butt to pull off for the first time, and I really don't have any reason to change it. But you just pull it off. It's just friction fit. It's just going to take a little bit of elbow grease to do it. You take your top part, screw it in, and your drip tip. There it is. So here's your Cerabis 44, your Cerabis 45 side by side. See the 45. Actually, they look pretty much the same. They look pretty similar, but you get an extra half a milliliter in the 45. Alright, so coils. Let's go ahead and dissect these coils to try to get a good look at the inside of them. So I've got my little mini pliers here. Man, it's really hard doing it through the camera and not actually looking at it. But this should just be a pin that pops off, I'm hoping. Let's see. Yep, there it is. So your pin pops off. And it looks like this is actually attached to the pin. Let's try to get in there really close. Oh, my fingernails look terrible. Yeah, that's actually like soldered onto it. Take a quick look at it. Off camera real quick, and yeah. Sure enough, that's kind of actually soldered onto it. That's got to be your ground. Oh, no, actually, that's got to be your positive. I take it back. That's touching the pin. That's going to be your positive. The ground's going to be that one right there. So there's your positive lead. It's actually soldered onto here, which is pretty cool. And I guess it's not going to come off unless it breaks. As you can see, it broke, and it's a little... It's broke because I pulled this out, actually. It's attached. That's why it's kind of hard to get out. And we have our little insulator there. And this is going to be our negative lead. Try to get this in focus. See if I can yank it out. Let's try to see if I can do this off camera real quick. I don't think I can, to be honest. No, that's in there. It's actually in there. So it's not going to come out that way. Don't know how else I can. I'm probably breaking all the ceramic by doing this. Screw it. This coil's done anyway. See if I can get any more out of it. Doesn't really look like I can. Everything seems to be one giant piece. It's all attached to each other. Here's the ceramic part. See if we can kind of get a look in there. You can see it's burnt up. You can see a little bit in there too, the coil wraps. So yeah, that's basically the coil. There's Kinthal wire that's apparently soldered onto the positive, and the negative is not soldered on, but it's attached inside of the ceramic. So unless I can pull the whole ceramic block out of here, I can't get this shit out. There might be a way. I mean, I'm trying this for the first time on camera. But I'll tell you what, this thing is pretty damn sealed up. My best bet would be probably this top part might unscrew. But I don't really think I have anything to unscrew it with. Looks like it might require a special tool or something. Can't really pop it out. So yeah, can't fully dissect the coil. But basically what the coil looks like is it's just wire wrapped inside ceramic. There is zero cotton in this at all. But as you can see, I definitely did burn it out. That was after cleaning it as well and dry burning them. So that's my close-up of the Cerabis 44 and 45 tanks and their coils. And it's going to be time to cut to the outro. Thank you guys very much. So I'll give you a little smoke outro. Alright guys, I am back now with my outro. I'm back on FaceTime. The outro is just going to be off the top of the head, but just a couple things I did want to say about these tanks. So the first thing is, do I recommend it or not? I'm very 50-50 on it. You know, I'm going to be honest, I don't care that I was sent it for free. You know, I have to be honest in my reviews, because that's more important to me than getting free stuff. So there's 10 people they sent these to. They're going to pick the top 5 best reviews and use them in the future. Obviously, I would like to be used in the future and also be able to have some input on ways they can improve it, but I can't outright recommend this tank. It's a very 50-50 on me. It's not a bad tank by any means, but it's not a great tank. It's not one I'm going to run out and tell people to buy right away, but if they are looking at it and it does interest you, it's worth giving it a try. Like I said, they're not bad, but they're not great. They're very in between. There's a couple things they could have done maybe to improve on them. If they wanted to either, for the 1 ohm coil, you know, make one of the tanks more of a mouth to lung tank, but instead they're both kind of a restricted lung tank. So it's barely a step up from the mouth to lung, but there's not really enough vapor production to match the airflow in my opinion. So they could have cut out the airflow, and then for the other one, instead of doing a 0.5 ohm coil, they could have made it a little bit beefier somehow. Maybe with a 0.25 ohm, made it a, you know, extra coils in there or something, whatever they wanted to do, but kind of beefed it up a little bit to match the airflow, but the vapor production's still not there. So you seem to get more air than what the vapor can give, so that's why you only get good flavor and not great flavor. The coils themselves are a great idea in the ceramic, so that's nice, but they don't work fully as intended. You will get to clean them off and use them a little bit longer than you would normally, where other ones with cotton you can't clean off. Once you burn cotton, it's burnt. In this case, there's nothing to burn other than the wire getting gunked up itself, so you burn it off the wire and try it again. But anyone knows, because these are Kenthal wrapped inside of it, if you use wire and you burn it, you can dry burn it and clean it off and use it again, but it still never quite tastes the same. It's cleaner, it works again, but it's not quite at a brand new level. It's just at a better level than it was. So I'm 50-50 if you want to give them a try. You know, they're interesting tanks. I really do like the design of the 45. The 44 is very basic. It's very nothing special. It's, you know, top fill. But I do love the design of the 45. You know, I love that most of the juice is hidden. You only have a little glass to see when it's there. It has that friction fit grommet on it, kind of like what the Cleto has, so the tank's really in place. You don't get any leaks from it. You know, you can close this down if you were worried about leaking, but it's not going to leak. And the filling of it's definitely the best feature of this tank. I love the way it's filled. I would actually like to see more tanks that are filled this way. So if you were looking to pick one up, I would go with the 45, not the 44. If you wanted a tank like this, there are definitely a lot better options. But if you wanted one that has a specific fill, that's small, it's not going to leak, it goes on your 22 millimeter mods that will fit 22 milliliter, nothing bigger. This is a pretty decent choice to try out. So I kind of 50-50 recommend this one if you are going to get one of these tanks, not really the 44. Plus you get the extra half a milliliter capacity over the 44. So good design, decent tanks, kind of recommend it, kind of don't. There's definitely some improvements, but I think if they build on what they have here with the 45 and make some improvements, make some beefier coils for it to match the airflow that you're getting, they could have a real winner here that I could definitely recommend. So again, not really on the 44. The 45 is I recommend if you want to give it a try for the filling. You want a small tank that gives decent production with the 0.5 ohm coil. The 1 ohm coil is not really that good for anything. It's too much air in these tanks, even with that coil, to get a mouth to lung hit on it, and with the restricted lung hit you're just not getting the flavor. But the 0.5 ohm is actually not that bad. It's close to the 0.5 ohm in the Freemax, which I said was not that bad. The thing I liked about the Freemax was the 0.25 ohm. So that's my review for this. I want to thank you guys for watching. Subscribers are always welcome. Feedback's welcome. If there's anything I can do to make my videos a better quality, if you could let me know if the lighting worked out better this way, so I can keep doing it this way, or if I need to adjust something else, I'm definitely open for that. And thank you guys for watching. Again, appreciate it if anyone subscribes. Appreciate feedback, and look forward to next time.